Hi everyone, I am Dr. T.V. Ambuli, Associate Professor in SRM Institute of Science and Technology. Today I am going to discuss with the topic absorption of overhead. First we'll see what is the term absorption of overhead. So before discussing with the absorption of overhead, we'll see what is the term overhead. Overhead refers to the indirect expenses, or we can say after the prime cost, what are the costs incurred in manufacturing business, all those we can call as a overhead. So it refers to indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses. So these only we can call it as overhead. What is the term absorption of overhead? Absorption of overhead refers to the process or the procedure for charging the overhead cost or indirect expenses to the cost of individual unit with respect to product, job or process. In a simple way, we can say the distribution of total overhead expenses over the unit produced in a particular period. So what are the total expenses incurred in the form of indirect? All those we are going to consider for 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 the product for a product which are produced in a specific period. It helps to ensure this absorption of overhead helps to ensure the total cost for the each unit. The next we'll see the examples of absorption of overhead. So in the year, just I am given a factory estimate the following data for a month. The total factory overhead is rupees 20,000. The total labor hour is 5,000 hour. So they asked to find out what is the overhead absorption rate and how much overhead will be absorbed, will be taken for 100 labor hours. So here they asked to find out the per hour rate, and also they asked to find out what is the cost incurred for 100 labor hours. Okay, so in this case, first we are going to step number one, we are going to calculate what is the overhead absorption rate. So overhead absorption rate, we are going to calculate the total overhead. So in the question they are given a factory. So here we are going to take the total factory overhead divided by total labor hours. So the total factory overhead in a question they are given as rupees 20,000 divided by the total labor hour given in the question 5,000 hours. So 20,000 divided by 5,000 hours will get rupees 4 per hour. That is called as overhead absorption rate. So the question they asked, for the 100 hours what is the cost. So now what we are going to do, 100 hours into rupees 4 per hour will get rupees 400. So it's nothing but the overhead cost for the particular labor. The next we are going to see the definition regarding the absorption of overhead. So according to Chartered Institute of Management Accountant, they are defined the overhead absorption is nothing but the process of assigning overhead cost to cost unit. Already I said, so in the meaning it's a what are the total expenses incurred that we are going to find out for the one unit cost for a particular period. So that is the assigning the overhead cost to the cost unit by means of one or more overhead absorption rate. So we are going to calculate the absorption rate, overhead rate, specified for the material, specified for the wages, or specified for the factory overhead or water case, or specified for the prime cost. What they expected, accordingly we are going to calculate for the overhead rate. So what is the purpose or the need of overhead absorption? The following are the purposes. The first purpose, to determine the cost per unit, because they are given the total expenses, we are going to find out for the per unit cost. The next one, it ensures the accurate producing cost for pricing decision. So in order to take a fixing the price, either is a cost price or selling price, in such a case we can able to identify what is the actual cost incurred for a particular aspect for the particular period. Then the third need for overhead absorption, to find out the efficiency of production. Then the next one, it also helps to estimate the cost and also controlling the cost. The last purpose or the need for absorption, overhead absorption, is nothing but comparing the actual overhead with the absorbed overhead and see whether there is any deviation or difference, that we are going to find out, and later that we are going to find the reason, and also we will take some, if the negative deviance or negative difference, we are going to take some step for rectifying that deviation. So the overhead how to calculate, next one we are going to say how to calculate the overhead absorption rate. So overhead absorption rate is nothing but the rate we are going to find out for the particular expenses with respect to the particular unit. So so for here just the general formula, here just overhead absorption rate equal to estimated overhead. So estimated overhead may be related to direct material or direct labor, or it may be a factory overhead, or it may be a water case. That divided by what is the estimate base, whether they are asked to calculate based on the unit or based on the hours or water case, we are going to calculate based on the estimate base into 100. We are finding the some percent is nothing but the overall overhead absorption rate. So what are the choice of calculating the types of overhead? So just already I said we are going to calculate according to the information. So we can able to calculate the absorption overhead based on the direct material cost rate, direct labor cost rate, prime cost, direct labor hour rate, and machine hour rate, and also rate per unit of output. The next one. Okay, so these are the ways we can able to calculate the overhead of the. So what? So here just I'll explain how to calculate this rate based on the formula. Suppose we are going to calculate the direct material means. So here what is the total overhead divided by direct material cost into 100. So if the direct labor cost means total overhead divided by direct labor cost. So here the total overhead divided by prime cost. Next one, total overhead divided by total labor hour rate. Total overhead divided by machine hour rate. We are going to divide by machine hour. So rate per unit means total overhead divided by the total number of unit produced. So which one we are going to find a rate, that we are going to use as a denominator, and the numerator will be always what is the total expenses. So okay, the next one we are going to discuss about the problem how to calculate the overhead absorption rate. See here, the first one we are going to calculate based on the labor hour rate method. First I'll explain the question, then we'll how to find out the rate. So here the first one, the total factory overhead is 30,000, total labor hours 6,000 hours. Find out the overhead absorption rate. So here we are going to find out the overhead labor hour rate based on the overhead absorption rate based on the labor hour. So just I am going to use this labor hour in the denominator, and the total factory overhead I am going to use as a numerator. So here 30,000 total overhead, just overhead absorption rate equal to total factory overhead divided by total labor hour. Total factory overhead is 30,000 divided by 6,000 hours. Here the result will be rupees 5 per labor hour. The second question they asked to find out the overhead absorption absorbed by a job by taking 150 labor hours. So 1 hour rate is rupees 5 rupees per hour means. So for 150 labor hours, what is the overall overhead cost? So 150 into 5, I am getting rupees 750. 750 is nothing but 150 into 5 is nothing but rupees 750 is nothing but the overhead absorption rate in the case of labor hour. The next one we'll discuss about the next problem with respect to machine hour rate method. So here first I'll discuss the question, then we'll work out the how to find out the solution for that. So here we are going to calculate the machine hour rate. So here the total factory overhead is 60,000 and total machine hour. Here we are going to calculate the machine hour rate. So the denominator will be machine hour, that numerator will be the overhead, that is 60,000. 60,000 divided by 12,000 hours will get you rupees 5 per hour. So they are asked to calculate the overhead absorbed by job using 250 machine hours. So to 250 machine hours into rupees 5, 1250 will be a overhead absorption rate for the 1250 machine hours. The next one, the percentage of direct labor cost method. So they asked to find out what is the percentage for calculating direct. So here you are going to calculate the percentage based on the direct labor cost. So here the direct labor cost we have to use as a denominator and total overhead will be a numerator. 50,000 divided by 2 lakh. Here they asked to find out the percentage. So we are multiplied by 100. We'll get 25 percentage. So what is the overhead absorption rate as a percentage of labor, direct labor cost is 25 percentage. Then next we'll discuss about the percentage of direct material cost method. Here also we are going to find out here they asked to calculate the direct material cost. So direct material cost we are going to consider as a denominator and the total overhead we are going to take it as a numerator. So 45,000 divided by 1,50,000 because they asked to calculate the percentage. So into 100 we'll get 30%. So overhead absorption rate on material cost is nothing but 30 percentage. The next one we'll discuss about the rate per unit of output. That is, for the total unit produced, we are going to find out what is the rate. So here the total overhead is 25,000. Total unit produced is 4,000. So 4,000 unit we are going to take it as a denominator and 24,000 we are going to take it as a numerator. 24,000 divided by 4,000 will get 6 per unit. So the overhead rate per unit is rupees 6 per unit. So in such a way we have to calculate the absorption overhead. Thank you.